This time on Poll Hub, why are pollsters so silent on election days? Cat got their tongues? No. It's a long-standing tradition for a reason. But is it really a good reason? We're going to talk about that. Then, whatever. No, I'm not blowing off this second segment. We're talking about our annual most annoying words survey, and whatever remains very popular. Or is it unpopular? Whatever. Finally, New Year's resolutions. Last year, Lee and I made the same resolution. How'd that work out? And what do we have planned for this year? Well, here's my resolution. I'll give it away. I am not going to go any longer with this intro. And hi, everybody. Welcome to Poll Hub. I'm J.D. Dapper, Director of Innovation here at the Marist Poll.
And I'm Barbara Carvalho, Director of the Marist Poll.
And I'm still Lee Marengoff, Director of the Marist College Institute for Public Opinion.
Well, that's great. That's great
if
news.
there was any doubt.
And
good news.
And
good
Mary
news.
Griffith will be here for a couple of segments here at the end. But it's good to know that you're still here, Lee, because we couldn't do this without you.
No, you could, but you choose not to.
So one of the things that I know from being a reporter is that pollsters don't talk on election days, and we don't get poll results on election days. Why is that? That is a tradition. Why is that, and is there a good reason for it?
Well, first of all, we do get exit poll results. So let's separate the kind of pre-election stuff is called pre-election for a reason. And, we don't want to put out polls that somehow might be confusing with the actual event of the people voting. So I think that's one serious consideration that I think makes a whole lot of sense. It's also nice to kind of have the day off and wait until the votes come in.
That's not the
day
reason.
off?
Come
The
on.
day off, yeah, until the votes come in. Then we have a long evening. But
So this is inspired by an article on 538. Does knowing whom others might vote for change whom you'll vote for? Which I don't think is grammatically correct as a title. But hey, I don't copy at it at 538. So Barb, why? Seems like a legitimate concern. Do we do it because we don't want to influence people who are going to the ballot box?
Well, I think there's some of that. And I think anecdotally, people think that, pollsters should just kind of get out of the way. We've had all this noise up until, through the campaign, up and through Election Day. And there is this sense that when Election Day comes along, it's now time for the voters to decide. Mm-hmm. Now, as Lee mentioned, we certainly still go out there and we have the exit polls who are interviewing voters as they leave the voting booth or are interviewing people who have voted by mail in or early in some states. But the idea there is that it's to just understand how voters voted and why, rather than to actually be predictive. I think that some of that kind of tradition is breaking down. I'm not sure that this time through the primary season and certainly through November, we won't still have some polling even coming right up until Election Day or released on Election Day. And that's because the technology has also changed. You can have polls right up until the last minute. And even if you think about some of the forecasters and the aggregators, it's kind of funny that this is a poll coming from 538 because all during Election Day, 538 is changing their odds of who is going to win. And I've never quite understood the how or the why.
What's the input for that? There's not much data.
Wait, here's something else. If I could jump in, and one of the things that I noticed in that article, when I was kind of surprised by the fact that a lot of countries have laws around the world which basically prohibit polls on Election Day, and I was surprised. So UN recognizes 216 countries, 92 of whom have some kind of blackout period.
Including, I think, the UK.
UK does, yeah.
Is it 6 weeks?
Yeah, and that's one I was aware of. I had no idea that this was that extensive, and I think, there's sort of a plus and minus to that. I mean, I think the plus, it gets away from some of the things, that potentially could contaminate. And I think we need to talk about the bandwagon effect, because I think that's part of what people are concerned about. Polls showing someone ahead, and then people are going to climb on board because they want to be with the winner.
Or though also what has been a concern, and this was, way back in the day, whether results of the actual votes should be counted and reported in early states. So, for instance, on the East Coast, before polling...
Indiana closes at 6 Eastern time, and Alaska and Hawaii, it's half over. It's only, they still have 8 hours to vote or whatever it is.
Right,
So, yeah.
and sometimes when we do have electoral landslides, it's literally over. I mean, we know the results. And so there was, for a time, caution about even presenting the results in states where the polls had already closed. But there was a lot of research that went into that and was presented in congressional hearings that pretty much showed that it could suppress turnout to a certain degree, but that the idea of a bandwagon, that is people kind of getting on board and want to be part of the winner, or people then going to the polls and it energizing people who think that a candidate might lose, didn't really seem to have that effect.
But there's still the tradition, and you mentioned it about exit polls. The poll that does go on, on election day are the exit polls, and we all know, from the media side and from the polling side, we all know that the exit polls come out in the middle of the day. There's one that's the first wave. It comes out before the 6 o'clock newscast, and then there's a second wave. And I remember.
Well, but presumably not the results. Now, if they get leaked, that's
what I was going to get
different.
at. In either 2008 or 2012, it was leaked, and then it's become much more of a common thing where it's leaking on websites the results. But the results had Hillary Clinton winning by a massive amount. Donald Trump, after the first wave of exit polls, was like, "Well, I'm done. I'm toast."
The trouble with the early wave exit polls is like a baseball score in the 5th or 6th inning. You don't know where it's going to go.
My point about that, though, is that we still do adhere to this in some way, but that's been breaking down in exit polls. So does that indeed lead to more results of polls because of the technology on the other side coming out on the morning of the election? Hey, here's the last
word.
But, there's also, I recall, in 2016, there was also a lot of disinformation about what the exit polls
Gotta have
showed.
more of that.
And, there were a lot of numbers bandied about, both with, Clinton ahead and Trump ahead or behind,
the
and
numbers just
different
weren't
states. And I think, it's the campaigns, it's the people who are advocates and supporters who are trying to energize a base. And as we've discussed many, many times, these elections in November are going to be about who can get out their supporters. And whatever can energize them to the polls can make a difference.
Yeah, and I'll say, in those countries that don't have polls up until election day, the pre-election polls, I think if you take those away, then you end up with a vacuum. And the vacuum's going to get filled by a lot of speculation, which is not going to be grounded in any reality.
Which is kind of like what we saw in 2016. That's precisely what happened. We didn't have a lot of good scientific polls the last couple of weeks of the election. So we had forecasters, we had pundits, we had conventional wisdom.
The vacuum will fill.
And that's how we ended up being shocked on Election Day.
Okay. Every year at this point, we release a poll. And that talks about what is the most annoying word or phrase that people felt has really gotten under their skin in the previous year. Now, this is a unique moment for our podcast. And I think, is this the only time all four of us have been at the microphone? Or have we done that earlier? Maybe we've done it earlier, maybe not.
Tons of times.
Tons of times. Have I been here? It was one of the four?
Yes,
yeah, okay. Yeah. So anyway, so Mary is joining us for this segment as well, because we would not want to leave anybody out when it comes to annoying words and phrases. Okay, so let's get to the chase here. Where have I been, right? I've been here. Okay, so.
Oh, whatever, Lee.
Okay, go for it.
There's number one.
There's number one. Again.
And maybe there's a reason.
The thing is, we have tried desperately, and please, those of you listening, can you just send us some words or phrases that you find really annoying? Because we do try to collect these annoying words and phrases throughout the year. And for 11 years now, we have not been able to find anything more annoying among Americans than whatever. At 34%, Americans weigh in as that is the most annoying word. And I think it's maybe because you can use it in so many different ways.
Yes. And what else scores here? What else do we have here?
No offense, but that's 20%. Dude, which I'm surprised is still on there because you never hear anybody say that anymore.
That was a new entry this year.
Was it?
Yeah,
Dude?
I think so.
Because
Literally.
Dude's like, that's on there.
14%.
And here's the one that finished fifth is the one that I thought might topple whatever. Please wait, I'll be right back with you or whatever like that. So, you know,
But you see, you used whatever again.
I did.
But you know what? One of the things that is somewhat interesting is that there is a bit of a difference when we look at age, and so I think, you know, whatever's time, although it has survived 11 years and may still survive another 5 to 10, it is something that is particularly annoying to people over 45. And I don't know if they just have a clearer vision of, you know, Clueless, the movie, or they just, you know, hear it a little too often. But
So here's my prediction for what will replace it.
yeah.
Okay, Boomer.
We talked a lot about
It's
Boomer.
too soon. It's too soon for that to
That's
be annoying.
way too
yeah,
soon.
yeah.
I want Mary
But
to
10 years from now, whatever will be, the people who are doing, you know, who are answering the questions in this poll are going to be, younger, or the younger cohort now. They're the people who say whatever. And so,
But before we
Well, no,
bury...
Hang on.
Okay, all
I
right.
want to stick with the OK Boomer thing because, I mean, some people around the question table, the question development table, felt that it might be a little too derogatory.
well, I'm a Boomer. I don't take it. I don't.
Am I
it's
still
not
a boomer?
derogatory
I
to
guess
me.
I'm a
Yeah,
boomer,
you're a
yeah.
Boomer.
Yeah, Lee.
Yeah, I
Three of the
know.
4 of us are Boomers.
Oh, gosh, that's sad.
Mary's a okay Gen Xer.
Gen Xer.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Mary,
Okay,
what
Xer.
is? I want to know, digging deep. I mean, you've been with this the whole time on this. What is it about whatever that you think just rises to the top every single year? What is causing all this?
I think it's the
Maybe
consensus.
that's how we can put it into it if we understand it.
The consensus, I think, in the office is that there's a nonverbal connotation to this as well. There's the affect, there's the hand movement. It's really dismissive. There are lots of other words that can have the same effect, but year after year, I really think that it punches through, especially as Barb mentioned, with the Clueless Association. I'm not going to say how many years ago now that movie came out, but a lot of people associate whatever with Clueless. And, you know, there's a hand gesture and the whole 9 yards, and it just seems to permeate and is persistent.
I got next year's. I just got it.
What?
Yankees win the World Series. The most annoying phrase around the country will be "the Yankees win."
Yeah.
That's been annoying for a very long time.
that's
Keep
really
dreaming about that.
annoying.
Did we have any new ones this year that were worth noting? Any
Just
new
dude.
words?
Just
Well, we
dude.
put in dude. We had the please wait, I'll be right with you. We were trying to, I think, get a sense of, you know, when you kind of dial in.
Yeah.
And or, you know, you just experience this.
Because
And
these may be the most annoying words. The most annoying thing this year is the proliferation of spam phone calls to my cell phone. That is the most annoying thing of the year to me.
Yeah.
so speaking of the end of the year, you know, last year, a couple of you made some resolutions.
We did.
So how did that go?
Lee and I both
I have
made,
to leave right now.
We made the same resolution. We're going to work out more, be more fit. How'd
And
that-
you actually had a plan, Jay.
I did. And
How'd that go?
Yeah, I stuck to it in the winter, and then once
Oh.
spring came around and I was outside more, I stopped. But I'm outside a lot more, so I didn't think it mattered. And then I started again in like September, October, and
This was exercising.
yeah, it's a regular exercising, regular following a plan as opposed to just doing the stuff outside that I normally do. And yeah, so that's what I did.
I've been exercising 4 days a week. In my mind.
In your mind.
But I made it to the gym probably a day or two a week, and I've sort of like fibbed when my cardiologist says, "How's that exercise going?" And I kind of like exaggerate.
Yeah,
I'm
but
within the
once-
margin of error.
Lying
though.
to your cardiologist, maybe that
well,
could be your resolution this year. Is I'm not going to lie to my
I'm
cardiologist.
gaming the system a
And
little.
Mary, did you have one last year or?
Mine was to breathe and to take a step back, and that certainly has not.
Yeah,
No,
I
no,
don't
you
think-
breathe-
I
you've
don't
been
think that-
breathing the
I don't-
whole year.
Actually, I'm not so sure. You know,
So what's-
Mary often doesn't have time to breathe.
So what's your resolution for this year?
To allow myself to say no more frequently. Not to any of you, of course.
Of course not. Of course not.
And Barbara.
You wouldn't want any kind of a, you know, work change here or anything like that. More time for yourself.
And what's yours?
The same thing I try to do every year, which is kind of a combination of being a better person trying to not get all upset about things I can't control, and that it also includes, food and, exercise and all those kinds of things.
It's an omnibus, we call it, the omnibus resolution. Lee, what's it going to be this year?
Which I will fail by this time
as
tomorrow.
the most senior of the team, I sort of feel that clock ticking a little bit, and I'm going to make sure when there's opportunity, there will be things like baseball games and football games and other Broadway shows and things like that I think are going to be part of the coming year. More fun. How's that?
A better work-life balance is
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
termed now by the people who call us OK Boomer.
So how do our resolutions stack up with those of Americans?
Oh, I forgot all about that.
Oh, yeah.
See,
Oh, that.
Mary brings us back to reality. Yeah, that's
I
what she
didn't
does
forget
all
that.
year. No,
I want to do the personal first.
Well, that's okay. And actually, you know what? We fit right in. We fit right in with Americans as a whole. 12% felt that they wanted to eat healthier, 11% exercise more, 10% be a better person. In fact, women are nearly twice as likely as men to say that they are resolving to be a better person. I'm not quite sure why that is.
Because men have
Are already
big heads and they
perfect.
think they're perfect.
They're
yeah.
already
Yeah, we have
perfect,
great
of course.
self-image.
And these findings are, of course, of Americans who are likely to make a resolution for 2020.
How many people aren't? What was the end size? I mean,
It's been a while, and it is I think a tradition that has somewhat been declining.
Really?
Because people who are older generally have kind of given up, and
Well, then, Lee,
I don't know what
I
that-
think we
I
should
don't
be
have-
very pleased that
Yeah,
you
and
have not.
proud.
Only for this discussion. Otherwise, I'd throw in the towel
well,
eagerly.
I think that either that or they feel that they are who they are, and they're very happy and very comfortable with that.
All right, the recommendation is, folks, if you're going to make a New Year's resolution, make it concrete, make it obtainable, make it something that you can feel good about past January 15th.
And we'll be polling next year to find out what you said. So that's going to do it for this edition of Poll Hub, the last one of the year, right?
Happy New Year,
The
everyone.
last one of 2019. Happy New Year. Poll Hub is a production of the Marist Poll at Marist College in Poughkeepsie, New York. Barry Griffith
Yours truly
is our
is
executive producer. Casey Schaff is our editor.
Please don't sing, Lee. It takes us like bars and bars to figure out what it is you're actually
They
singing.
know. They
So
know.
thanks to the Roper Center Archive at Cornell University for providing us the great survey questions throughout the year and results over the decade so that we can compare them. And if you have any questions or comments, please reach out to us on social media, particularly if you have a most annoying word or phrase. We really want to hear from you. We're at Marist Poll on Twitter and Marist Poll on Facebook and Instagram.
Lee.
And
Well, I'm going to say, if you want to learn more about polling and the things we talk about each week, check out our online. We've been doing this, over 2 years now? It's amazing. Anyway, check out our online learning program, the Marist Poll Academy. It's visual, it's engaging, and as we always like to say, it is free. Mary, you get the last word of 2019.
Happy New Year, everyone.